the stolen property. If you would go on ahead to my accommodations, I will join you as soon as I have attended to this task. Follow the path straight ahead to the building at the top of the slope. I have the entire place to myself, so we can speak without fear of being disturbed or overheard. Alright, feel like I'm going to need some coffee for this. I will be back. I'm back. And I forgot to do. I forgot to do that. My bad. Yeah, I actually just recently discovered that you can do this, and it just like changes the camera around when I like have to go to the bathroom or something. Or more importantly, make coffee. You needn't be nervous around Venat. Those white rows mark her as one of the fair and impartial one mark her as one of fair and impartial reasoning. Aside from the emissary Elizabeth, such garb is worn only by those who have stepped down from public office to serve as advisors. Whatever you have to say, she will listen without judgment. Yes, this will be far more comfortable than interrogating you on the side of the road. Thanks, Emmett. Welcome to my temporary abode. Please, make yourself at home while I put on some tea.
Ah, a wonderful aroma. I feel more relaxed already.
Would that I had sweetmeats to offer, but I travel light out of habit. There's plenty of hot water though, so please have as much tea as you like. Now then, will you tell us your tale?
Like, how far do I go back? Why are they playing this fucking song? God damn it.
Why don't you start from the beginning?
Why do I feel like I just fucked everything up?
Preposterous. Utterly preposterous.
While not the words I would have chosen, I too have my doubts. Much of it borders on the incredulous. What of you, Vanar?
Not knowing the precise details of the first final days, it is difficult to determine the veracity of the tale. Supposing it is all true, I must ask myself why I would do what I did. Why would I feel I had no recourse but to oppose the 14 and create this Hydaelyn? Circumstances change, of course, but it would not have been an easy decision regardless. No, there must have been a reason. One compelling enough to force me to take such drastic measures. Then there is the Elpis flower, which I said would serve as a guide. That it's of import to your mission is plain, but your presence here leads me to believe that this place also holds significance. But what could it be? What are we meant to accomplish?
Might it not be simply thus? In the future whence he came, the final days could not be averted. Mankind has no choice but to flee the star. By alerting us to that eventuality, perhaps you wish to pave the way for other futures.
Theoretically speaking, it is a possibility. Yet if that were my primary objective, I see no reason to guide our friend to Elpis specifically. The capital and Amarot, or even my own home would be more logical destinations.
True, true. I note also that Hydaelyn did not specify a point in time to which he must return. By this, it may be inferred that it was not critical that we should meet.
Alternately, she had reason to believe that our paths would converge, coincidental though it may seem.
This is quite a puzzle, and we do not have all the pieces.
Hardly any, but we do have one immutable fact. If the final days are indeed as described, they will bring death to all that I hold dear. Yet despite being afforded long years of preparation, the only provisions I could make were for flight. Nay, my first and foremost endeavor would be to find a way to forestall the coming doom.
Given that even the 14 failed, mayhap you deemed it impossible.
Nothing is impossible. This I have always believed. And if Hydaelyn is indeed me, she would believe the same.
Listen to yourself. Are you seriously entertaining the notion that you are a messianic figure in some far-fetched tale? Well, I will not. I refuse to accept that our world could be undone by some unforeseen calamity. I also take offense to my portrayal as a megalomaniacal madman. To sacrifice oneself for the star is a noble act, and I would hold those who gave themselves to this zodiac in the highest esteem. Yet, you claim I recreated Amarot and populated it with phantoms of our people? A bizarre indulgence that would be insulting to their memory. Worse still, I even invited you there. Literally invited my own downfall. Why would I do something so idiotic and inexplicable? Now, I will allow that the hypothetical task of restoring our world would be daunting in the extreme. The thought of having to bear such a burden for 1,000 lives horrifies me. But I would never forsake my duty. I would never forsake my brethren. You do not know me. I've had my fill of your fiction. I will return to my duty, and you will not bother me again. Emmett Selk, wait!
You've seen much of Elpis already. If you have any observations to share, I should like to hear them. Ah yes, the energy distinct from ether. Though not my field, I have a basic understanding of dynamis. And you say Hermes researched the phenomenon in the course of creating Meteon? Yes, I believe this warrants further investigation. With that settled, it is time for action. The missing pieces of the puzzle are here, I'm certain of it. And when you find them, the picture my future self has painted will be complete, and you will have your answer. And suffice it to say, I will aid you in your quest. Have faith. If Emmett Selk is the man Azum described to me, we've not seen the last of him.
Shall we begin our investigation, then? I am acquainted with Hermes, of course, but only as a visitor received by the chief overseers of Epis. Of the man himself, I know only that which is common knowledge. Thus, I suggest we fall back on the tried and true method of conversing with the locals. The observers who live here can surely tell us more of Hermes and Meteon, and I have a good idea of where we might begin. See the woman standing in front of yonder building. Her name is Ismene. She is the one who made arrangement for my stay in Elpis, and from what I can recall, she has held her position here for quite some time. Chances are she can provide us with some insight. Go and ask your questions. I will help by withdrawing out answers if need be, but I leave the choice of topic up to you. Questions? For me? Well, I suppose I have no other pressing duties at the moment. Greeting, Isman. My friend here is desperately curious about Chief Hermes, and I was wondering if you might indulge him. Certainly, Mistress Venet. Anything to be of service. What do you wish to know? Well, I can only answer from my own experiences, but I would describe him as a quiet man, reserved, you might say, and occasionally somewhat poor with his choice of words. His resistant nature, however, does not prevent him from carrying out his duties as chief overseer. The man is a walking archive when it comes to life forms. He can discuss any specimens in incredible details, and he is the leading authority on concepts with the power of flight. I hope that answers your question. Was there anything else? cannot rightly say, as the chief's personal creation, Mentian has not been subject to observation and study like other concepts. So one day she was simply there, and what do you make of her abilities? I understand that she is a highly unusual familiar, able to read emotions and communicate directly with one's mind. Exactly how she was created with that talent, however, is a mystery to me. My apologies. I wish I could explain her nature in more depth, but I have not had occasion to discuss it with Chief Hermes. I beg your pardon? I've known Chief Hermes for many years. Though I cannot say we are close, he has never withheld information to the detriment of our duties, if that is what you mean. Forgive us, we seem to have veered slightly off course here. Is there perhaps someone else who could tell us more about Mentian? That would be Timos. He has a similar expertise with flying concept, and is more than eager to discuss the subject. You'll find him conducting his observation on the bank of the stream, somewhere to the east. Oh, and unless you take a particular joy in rambling discourse, I suggest you keep your questions concise. We shall keep that in mind. Thank you for your patience and your insight. Think nothing of it. If there is aught else you need during your stay, please do not hesitate to ask. Come, Vamron. I think we've taken enough of Ishmael's time. Our investigation is off to a fine start, wouldn't you agree? From here, I propose we split up. I shall continue making inquiries with the residence observers, if you could track down the colleague Isman mentioned. While I did feel compelled to interject once or twice during the previous conversation, you seem more than capable of drawing forth the answers you seek. All I ask is that you watch your footing around the stream. We can meet back here once you finish speaking with this Timos. Yes, yes, I am Timos, but please keep your voice down. We'll start at the burdens. So, what is it you wish to speak about? Chief Hermes' work? A worthy subject indeed. Those beings which soar through the clouds, majestic and graceful, are ever a favorite of creators. Even now, with so many varieties in existence, the flood of newly imagined concept continues unabated. What sets the chief creations apart, however, is how they benefit from his boundless knowledge of the celestial realm. Birds that climb so high that they disappear from view, others which traverse the boundless sky in moments, and all without riding the currents. I know of none save he who can conceive of such marvels. Even we who prize elegance from a form above all else are dumbfounded by his genius. My opinion on the matter would be superficial at best. Despite my admiration for Mittens as a concept, I have never delved too deeply into the inner workings of her nature. I know that she has a gift for communicating via emotions, but otherwise, her abilities are a mystery to me. If Chief Hermes should choose to submit Mitten's creation to the Bureau of the Architect, then we will be designed to register for public scrutiny. Analyzing a colleague's creation before that step is frowned upon, to say the least. Of course, if he came to me, a fellow artisan, looking for advice, that would be an entirely different story. No, no, no. Did I not just explain that that was frowned upon? I couldn't possibly circumvent conventional practices by, unless you were sharing such information in the hope of receiving a constructive opinion on the application of advanced creation techniques, then I would be practically obligated to. Wrong choice. Themos launches into a rambling and unstoppable deluge of justifications. So you see, ethically, I have no choice but to allow you to disclose Mitten's lesser known qualities. Dimness and intellectus. Those terms do sound vaguely familiar. Was there not a flower made here in Elpsis which exhibited properties of one or the other? It must have been centuries since I've last heard anyone speak of such things, and you know how they relate to Mitten and her design. Then why bring up the subject? I'm flattered that you sought my insight, but I cannot afford to neglect my duties for the sake of idle chatter. Now, I really must return to my observations. Surely you have your own tasks to attend to. Ah, good timing. I finished my own investigation not long ago. So, have you any new findings to share? I see. Even an expert in the field had little understanding of Mitian's capabilities, let alone an awareness of Dionys. My question resulted in much the same answers. Hermes' colleagues view Mitten as his personal project, and could provide no detail beyond those which you just told me. Which leads me to believe that the only person with any significant knowledge of Diomedes is Hermes himself. Yes, we made some progress here, but more information is needed if we are to reach any definitive conclusion. At present, the strongest link we have to the final days is the power of Diomedes, and the intellects which can control it. Yet more scholars are only vaguely aware of these terms, let alone study them in any depth, except for Hermes, it seems. Thus, I am inclined to stay our current course, and learn all we can about the chief overseer and his familiar. And on that subject, was there aught else of note you can tell me about Mitian, aside from her unorthodox method of communication? I rather wish you had mentioned that earlier. In any event, would you care to elaborate? So these siblings of hers now travel the great expanse in search of deeper meaning. Thank you. Though the mystery at hand remains unresolved, I feel you've touched upon a vital clue, one we should keep in mind as we continue. Next, I propose we take ourselves to, yep, not far from here. Just follow the path to the west. This tower and the others further along are both part of Hyperion Crystalline, the facility where they archive all of Epsis' observations and testing records. Despite how they appear from the outside, the interior is actually a vast area of magically interconnected spaces, which, while fascinating, is not the reason why we are here, is it? I shall cut my architectural lesson short, and see that those two archivists have to share. If you can find someone to speak with over at the other tower, I shall join you there. Eyes. You have questions for me? Certainly. Just a moment while I conclude my current appointment. Indeed. So if you could provide a comprehensive log of those behaviors, we should then have sufficient data for our official records. Now, what was it you wished to speak with me about? The Chief Observer's personal research project, and by that I assume you mean Mentian. Such undocumented studies are difficult to track. After all, hardly a day goes past without seeing a researcher trailed by one creation or another. I'm afraid I cannot tell you exactly when Mentian appeared, only that she now spends much of her time at Chief Hermes' side. Although, I do recall an interesting tale my dearest Galleon shared with me. Galleon is my partner, and a fellow researcher here at Elpis. She was returning late one night when she caught sight of Chief Hermes sending mittens heavensward, a host of them. For several days, she would speak of that scene with wonder, describing it